Hi, I'm Tin Yan, and I just want to share with you my journey with depression. And it's like one of the toughest things, but it is possible to get well. And so I just really hope to encourage you with my story today. So the first time that I had depression was after my first semester in university. So I'm from Hong Kong, and I went to Sydney for university. And after the first semester, I came back for the holidays, and I was just completely like destroyed, completely burnt out. Because it was my first time living by myself outside. Even though I was at a homestay, I was just getting used to all the different university life and getting used to a whole new country. It was really so much. And so I came back home, and then I'll just sleep every single day. Sleep, and then eat, and then sleep, and then eat, and then sleep, and eat. Like I wouldn't, like it was really hard for me to go out. I lost motivation for doing anything. I'll just keep on sleeping all day. And my parents were just so worried about me at that time. And actually there was 3 times in my life that I've kind of fallen into that kind of pit of depression. The first time was like first semester of university. The second time was when after I finished university, after 4 years of university, going from Sydney, coming back to Hong Kong, and I kind of fell into that pit of depression again. And this time it was basically because I felt like I was a total failure. I finished university, but by the end of my degree, I was really struggling, and my graduation project I felt was a complete disaster, failure, and I was just like, I was so scared of like taking that project and going for interviews and showing people what I had done. Like I felt such a big sense of failure and shame, and that was like maybe half a year where I just really didn't have much motivation to do anything. And again, it's like sleeping a lot and just feeling this so down and so depressed and just so unhappy. And another time, the third time that I kind of fell into that depression again was after I finished my master's in London, and I came back to Hong Kong, and that was the toughest time because I was like almost turning 30, and I felt like I had nothing. I felt like, again, I felt like a failure. I felt like all my friends are like, on their way in their careers, and here I am starting at ground zero again because I wanted to start my career in illustration. And I felt like I had so much regret, so much pain, and I just remember being like mentally tormented, like even just waking up at night with dreams and thinking, okay, if I hadn't done that, if I had taken made that decision while I was in high school, or if I had done this or done that, or then my life would be so much better now. And I was just regretting almost like all the big decisions that I had made in my life up to then, because I was single and I had nothing to show. I felt like I had nothing to show for my life, my career, and I felt like a failure. So if you can kind of see like what kind of like the kind of the things that repeat is like a sense of burning out. That was like my first actually in my first semester, that first burnout. I think it was also because like I had fallen in love with this guy, but it was like a one-sided thing. But I had never fallen for someone that hard before, and I think I was just heartbroken. Okay, so first thing, I was heartbroken, and the second time I just felt like a failure, and the third time I also felt like a failure, and I had so much regret because life goes on, and the longer you live, the more opportunities you have for making wrong decisions, or sort of in the moment you feel like it's wrong, but just feeling that regret. I think what happened was like my dad, like on the third time, I think my dad gave me a list of symptoms of depression, and I was so surprised that I filled up. I had hit almost every one, like all those symptoms. I hit so many symptoms of depression. And I realized that, oh, I'm depressed. I'm not lazy because I'm feeling really tired and lack motivation, I'm sad. It's not because I'm lazy, it's because I'm depressed. So I think getting that kind of like that label for myself, somehow that actually helped me. It made me realize that, I'm depressed. And then when you realize that you're depressed, then you can start to do something about it, right? And so I think what helped me the most, like, of course, like there's so many people with much, you know, stronger symptoms of depression who are struggling a lot, who need medical care. Sometimes it's physical, and there's a lot of reasons for depression. But this is just me sharing from my story, how God delivered me from my depression. And I think it's because it doesn't start at that moment when you break. There's so many things that build up to it. Like even from when I was a kid, even in nursery, I would compare myself with other kids. Like I had this thought in my mind, which is definitely a lie from the devil. I had this thought that's like, oh, I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. Like I kept on having this thought and comparing myself with other kids. And then I spent basically the rest of my life trying to prove that I'm not stupid. Trying to prove that I'm good. Trying to prove that I'm worth something. I think that's the main drive for me in high school to excel in my academics, because I felt like I don't have anything else. Like I'm not the most beautiful person, I'm not the most popular person, I'm very introverted. I'm not the most, you know, I'm not the person with the most friends. Like what do I have? What kind of advantage or strength do I have? It's like, okay, I can do well in my grades. So I really went for my grades. But it wasn't from the right mindset. It was still from, I want to show that I'm good. I want to show that I'm better than other people. It was kind of from that mindset. So of course, like in the long term, that's really gonna like bite me. So that whole like perfectionism thing, just feeling like a failure all the time and comparing myself with my peers, I think that really pushed me into depression. Because like if you start comparing yourself with others, you just feel more and more worthless, because you always see the good parts of other people and you compare that with yourself, and you know yourself the best, right? You know all your weaknesses, you know all your faults, all the mistakes, and for me, I was just like hitting myself basically in the mind. Like in my mind, I was just like, just saying all these bad things to myself. And I think the hardest thing, I think, when I was 30, overcoming that time of depression, was regret. I think regret is something that's truly from the devil, because regret is not like something you can go back to change. Regret is just constantly going over the things that you feel you could have done better. You think you could have done differently, but you cannot go back and actually redo those things. So regret is really a waste of time. I think it's good to reflect and kind of learn from your mistakes, but when it goes into that deep kind of regret, it goes into like a self-hatred, and there's no hope in there, because you cannot go back to change those decisions that you made. So I think I was really tormented by that. But I think God is just so good and so gracious, and I feel like I'm still a work in progress. Like there's still times when I'll feel down. There's still times when I'll feel like I'm a failure, when I feel really negative about myself. But I think I've learned over the years some things to fight back against those negative thoughts, which really is learning how to see how God sees me. Because I know that God doesn't see my worth based on what I have achieved or what I haven't achieved. Like God doesn't define me by my mistakes. When Christ died on the cross for me, he paid for all of my sins. And I felt like growing up as a Christian, I know that God has paid for all my sins, but it's like, oh, what about all of those other mistakes? But I have learned to feel that, I have learned to know that, you know, God is bigger than my mistakes. And God can make beauty out of ashes. Even in my mistakes, God can make something good out of that in my life. And making those wrong turns, and even if it was a wrong turn, at the time I felt like I had made a wrong decision about doing my bachelor degree in landscape architecture. But now looking back, it wasn't actually a bad decision. It was the best decision that I could make at the time. And just learning to forgive myself, learning to accept myself, learning to love me for me. And there's still something I'm learning, but I just have learned to fight back against those negative thoughts, because those thoughts that do not inspire hope, those thoughts that put you down, those thoughts that tell you that you're worthless and that you've made too many mistakes and that you're screwed, like those thoughts are from the devil. Those thoughts are not from God. And I've learned to like recognize it when it comes up in my mind, that I'm a failure or that it's too late. And I have to learn to say, no, that's not from God. That's not how God sees me. God has a good plan for my life. And I just want to encourage you with that. I know that depression is like, some people say it's like a cold that you can recover from. But for me, it's like something, it's almost like an everyday battle that you have in your mind. Like, I'm not, like today, am I going to give into those thoughts? Am I going to give into fear? Am I going to give into regret again? So I feel like I've gone on such a long journey. And I know that some of you are struggling a lot more than I ever have with depression. But I really believe that God has a good plan for you. And you have to believe it. That's the main point. You have to believe that God has a good plan for you. No matter what you've done, no matter what you're going through right now, there's still hope, and God has so much love for you at this moment. So I want to encourage you with that. And for me, every day I'm still fighting to get those negative thoughts out of my head and believing that God's plan for me is good and His plan for you is good as well. So hopefully I've encouraged you a little bit. And also, of course, all those other things are important, like exercise, having a good diet, and reading your Bible and stuff like that, and turning on worship music. But I feel like when you're really, really depressed, like even just going out of your room is hard. Even just getting out of your bed is hard. So I think it's at those times where I just turn on some worship or turn on a sermon that I know will encourage me. Like at least I still have that strength to press that button to open that video on my YouTube. So I really pray for you. I pray for you that your life will be full of joy. I believe that God has good things in store for us. Bye bye.